how to improve my papers by using dictions.
Word choice, which is a big thing in writing.
Just a lot of different techniques. Semicolons, on how to use a semicolon and when to correctly use it. Learning how to use empathy in real life situations.
About social injustice that was really interesting, and it looked at how some schools have better computers and books.
The one that we just did, it's on empathy, and it's kind of like whether or not how we should give to others, and if when you're put in difficult situations and how you're supposed to.
The discussion about Ricochet River, there was a lot of different opinions.
He really does a great job of going over things, so we'll learn about it and then we'll be able to write about it, and he gives us really great feedback.
He's a really cool teacher. He's just laid back, but he's always concerned about if you're learning and if you're not getting enough about the class.
I like Mr. Hummel because he's not boring, and if there's a word that's hard to pronounce, he just draws it out really long. And
he's a cool dude.
Whenever he reads out loud, he'll go through a story, we read the 10 Angry Men story. And if there's a word with a silent K in it, he'll read the K, he'll pronounce it. So he'll always say knife for knife, and canuck, knuckle.
He tells stories about him, and the deer one where he hit a deer when he was in college. It's pretty funny.
I learned how to improve my writing and how to interpret stories and books into my writing.
I really learned to really speak my mind, speak with my heart, and yeah, put a lot of what I was feeling into my writing.
How to think more critically, and I learned a lot more about English in general.
We learned a lot about great Shakespearean plays and stuff like that, like Antigone.
I learned what justice was and how to think about things more in depth, I guess.
I learned about the hero's journey.
I learned about how, no matter where we are in time, everyone's problems are the same.
We were discussing about Of Mice and Men and about how I made my own live action video with my friends about interacting the book.
We got to write boasts about ourselves.
My coming of age for technology.
I liked reading Fahrenheit 451 because it made me think a lot about what our future is going to hold, and more about what we're actually doing to ourselves.
Talking about Fahrenheit 451 and just talking about how technology is kind of taking over, but everyone in my class is on their iPhones when we're doing it.
For the Justice unit, we read our choice book.
Miss Warnicki's just a really fun teacher.
Miss Kim was really funny.
I love the class in general. The class is just great.
She's just very funny in general.
I asked Miss Warnicki to homecoming.
Sometimes she doesn't always realize what she's saying, so sometimes she says things and she doesn't realize that they're kind of bad jokes and they're not school appropriate.
About race and how to, interpret different views and lots of different cultural things like that. It's really interesting.
How to get more involved in discussions and think more critically about literature and different things I read.
How to have more open discussions and really synthesize what we're trying to write about.
When we discuss out loud as a class and people get to openly ask their own questions, and it just provokes people to talk and tell their own opinions.
The speeches we had to do, because it was just it was so different.
I like
Mr. Mitchell because he challenges us and enlightens us.
He's very laid back. He's very chill. It's nice compared to some strict teachers.
Mr. Slick's really cool. He's very like laid back, but he really, he really helps you with your writing. Like, he makes sure to set up individual times to meet with you, so like that he can help you perfect your own writing skills. And
I like Slick because he's really like devoted to making everyone a better writer, and he puts in a ton of time and a ton of work, and like it really shows. I get more done in half of his classes than like a full block period in any other class.
At one point, I didn't finish an article that I was supposed to make notes on, and he wrote incomplete on the bottom. And so I then returned it in, but under his incomplete, I wrote, well, check again. And then he proceeded to call me a sassy pants.
Right now we're learning how to balance a checkbook, and then down the road we're also going to learn how to do interviews and stuff like that. And then also how to write papers, like really good papers, like papers that I'll be able to use in college.
this year in English, I've learned a lot about how to make my papers stronger.
We learned a lot like Lord of the Flies and 1984 about kind of like that struggle that each person has.
I learned how to identify metaphors in everything.
What madness is. I learned what craziness is. And I learned about Hamlet.
The inner evil of everyone.
I learned the importance of hand sanitizer, but we also learned about satire and a bunch of other topics too.
I've learned about satire, playwrights.
I can't read fast anymore because I have to analyze every freaking thing that the book says.
Anything about Equus?
Well, one of the best discussions we had was about the censorship of books, but my favorite discussions are the ones where Mrs. West talks about her children.
We were reading Hamlet, and we were discussing the theme of reality and what it really means.
We just had a really good discussion about censoring books, and I don't know, every discussion is funny. She always throws something in there that makes them funny and memorable.
It was probably like the first day. Yeah. Like, it was just walking in there and like totally getting overwhelmed by like everything, but like it was awesome.
That she's hilarious and kind of has the same personality as me. And other things that I probably shouldn't say on camera.
Constantly challenging us to think of like better ways to explain ourselves, and she's literally like probably the most intelligent person I have ever met, honestly.
She's a very interesting person, always talking kind of amongst herself. It's good stuff, but it's funny.
She doesn't lecture.
I like everything about Miss Hanlon except for the fact that she disses Harry Potter like every day, and it really hurts my feelings.
She knows how to keep our attention, but also be serious while having to teach us, but also has a good time.
And all of a sudden, some girl just comes walking out of Miss Hanlon's closet. And keep in mind, this is a half hour into class. And she just comes walking out, and Miss Hanlon gives her a nod and says, "Hey, okay." And she goes, "Thanks, Miss Hanlon," just leaves the room.
There's not one funny story. Every day's a party in Miss West's class. And
I'm kind of a chatty person, but Miss Hanlon's takes it to a similar extreme, to the point where once we had the task of doing this analysis on the book Beloved, and I had to take all the literary devices out of it. And so I was doing this big class presentation, and everything I said, she would break out a new in-depth analysis. And before I could get halfway done with my part, she said, "Okay, you're going to have to be kind of quick. You just can't go into too much detail. You got to wrap it up." And I was forced in this position where I had to kind of politely say, "Miss Hanlon, you're the only one that's been talking for the last 20 minutes. I'm sorry, can I finish my job?"